Before the votes were cast, it was a very different message. Media outlets were predicting a very bad night for the Democrats, many talking about a red wave based on polling. So how did the pollsters get it so wrong? Well, let's put that question to Julia Manchester. She is national political reporter at The Hill, and she joins us now. Julia, thanks so much for being with us today. So did the polls get it wrong?
You know, I don't think there's really a yes or no answer to that question. However, we do know that from talking to nonpartisan pollsters, such as our partners at Emerson College Polling, the pollsters over at, Suffolk University, these various other large polling organizations, and as well as polling experts, we found that they actually got it pretty right, or at least had it pretty close to the mark. In the races in Arizona and Pennsylvania, for example, they both had very close races out of those Senate races. However, we did see the Democrats still leading, which actually happened. However, we saw out of a number of right-leaning polls, including those from the Trafalgar Group, it seemed that they were predicting more of a red wave that didn't happen. And some strategists from the Democratic Party I talked to essentially said, look, this was a bit of a strategy to flood the zone, if you will, to really try to make it seem like there was a red wave by impacting those polling averages, showing Republicans further ahead than they might have actually were. And then, of course, those in the media, including myself, seem to think that, a red wave was very much possible. And it, of course, was. However, it seemed that those right-leaning polls might have had an impact on those averages.
Well, then what is the point? Is there a political strategy to doing that, to making it seem like, or putting forth that most positive possibility out there for voters who haven't gone to the polls yet?
Yeah, that one Democratic pollster who I talked to said, yes, there absolutely is. By flooding the zone with these, polls showing that in this case, Republicans very much in the lead, it boosts morale among Republican voters and among the Republican ecosystem. It shows in those polling aggregators, for example, that average all the polls that come out publicly, that Republicans may be doing better than they actually are. And then, of course, those of us in the media, like I said, talk about those polls and talk about the possibility of a red wave. And then Republican voters and Republican operatives and strategists hear that, and that impacts morale and potentially fundraising and the money race, essentially, in a number of these competitive races.
So how does a voter know if a poll is reliable or credible?
Well, one thing they should certainly look at is methodology, and methodology should always be provided in a poll. If a pollster is not providing methodology, that should be a big red flag. And when I say methodology, I'm talking about how they conducted this. So did they do this by landline, via cell phone, via email? What was the margin of error? Was it a large margin of error by 7 points, which would have left more room for error? Or was it between 2 to 4 points, which we see a number of credible pollsters often report in their polling? Those are the things polls should look out for. And those of us in the media and journalists need to be including that methodology in our stories so we can reflect and be transparent about how this polling was conducted.
And I have to really agree with you a lot there, because so often we just kind of get the headlines of the poll out there, and we don't get into all of that, so it's hard for the viewer at home to know that. Does the media put too much weight in polling?
That's a big debate within the industry. And, Shelley, I'm sure you've talked about this, had conversations about this as well. I think polls are very important. They provide a snapshot in time. But in my opinion, I think those of us in the media need to recognize that polling is not necessarily meant to predict the future. They provide a snapshot in time. They provide how things are at the current moment. So right now, there's a number of 2024 polls out there showing, how former President Trump would perform in a head-to-head matchup with Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida. That shows how things are going right now. And of course, we've seen some polls that have come out showing the Florida governor doing pretty well. A lot of that is because he had a very good night comparatively to Republicans last Tuesday, winning re-election and really becoming a bit of a national name for the Republican Party. That could change next week. It could change next month. These are snapshots in time. They're not meant to predict the results of an election. As we get closer to an election, we could get more of an idea. However, we need to stop looking at this as a prediction, as a statement from a pollster saying this is going to happen.
There you go. Absolutely. And as far as 2024, anything could happen in 2 years for sure. All right. Julia Manchester, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. She is the national political reporter at The Hill. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.